desk. All right, so what I want to talk to you about today is just this little bit of an epiphany that I had while I was reading this fabulous new book. This book is called, it's new to me. I'm sure it's not new to you. It's by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. And one of the things that I always look for as somebody who is constantly craving new things and learning new things is when sometimes you read something and somebody says what you've been thinking, but in a way that is just absolutely clear and fabulous. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but if you have, let me know. So sometimes you read something, you're like, I know this, it's not new to you, but somebody can frame it so beautifully that you're like, yes, this is it. This is what I was thinking, right? And it's so funny because one of the things that James said is that everybody in the world has goals, right? Everybody in the world has sometimes the same goals. And his example was, let's say people go to when you compete in marathons or when you compete in a Tour de France. Everybody wants gold, right? Everybody has the same goal. But some people achieve them and some people don't. And so the difference is not and we've always been told, set good goals, set great goals. Goals are important, right? And the difference is not between the fact that some people have goals that are good enough or they haven't set them, because everybody who has made it to like the finals of Tour de France, they're there because they got some goals, baby, right? They got goals. It's not the goals that separate the winners from the losers. It's systems. It's the systems that help them get there. And I thought about that and I was like, this is brilliant, because I don't know if this will resonate with you, but years ago, I mean, the people that I know that I talk to every week that book sessions with me, they want to create training that they're proud of. And they want to do things like, you know, a lot of us, basically what we do is we push pixels, right? We make digital things that aren't really tangible and put them out there to people and hope they have meaning. But really, it's not like you're making a cup or something, right? You're like, that, you know, somebody will hopefully one day use. You're creating these digital things that aren't tangible, and one of the way that you realize that they have meaning and they come back to you is when somebody tells you, you know, that actually changed my life, or that was actually really meaningful, and I like that meant something to me. Thank you for putting that together, right? And I got that a little bit when I first started designing years ago. Not aging myself here. But what I started with is, was an idea that if I just, if everybody else would just agree with me, then I could just do things that were meaningful. And so that's one of the reasons that I started working for myself, because I thought, hey, you know, if I just work for myself, then I could do things that are always going to be engaging and always going to be exactly how I want them. And so I did that. But what I learned along the way, and this was a hard lesson, this is one of those lessons where you're like, you know how you see people who have figured it out one day and you're like, how did that happen? And they're like, well, one day I did this and I got this breakthrough. Well, it didn't happen that way for me. I had a breakthrough and I didn't even know I had a freaking breakthrough. And I just kept on banging my head against the wall for years until I had to go back to that breakthrough to actually get it and be like, whoa, I had a breakthrough there. So the breakthrough was that years ago, I designed a learning module. You may have heard of it. It's called Broken Coworker. And Broken Coworker took off like wildfire, right? And what happened is then it started like being used all over, I gotta tell you, all over the North America as a example of scenario-based learning. Companies got in touch with me about using it for their training for harassment. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. But what happened is at that point, even though I should have had this kind of an epiphany almost, like, hey, this is actually, there's something there, there's a pattern there that'll work. I didn't get that. I actually thought, you know, I guess when you're at that stage, sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, but you think like opportunities will continue appearing, or what you did is a fluke and it's not actually a repeatable thing. So that's what I thought when I created that system. I was like, or that module, I was like, I don't, whatever. It's I can do this again in a different way. So what I did is I did that. I actually tried to reinvent the wheel over and over again, many projects. I had decks, absolute decks of options and creative ideas. And for some reason, I couldn't realize why every time somebody said yes to a project, I would get like absolutely nauseous inside, because after I shared with them all these possibilities, I had no clue what they were going to come back with to say that this was going to be a go. So I had basically created this, like, basically an encyclopedia of overwhelm for myself. And so I thought, how can I do this so that every time I have a project, I know I'm going to be able to deliver value. There's some sort of a confidence there. And also I'm not like just basically wanting to throw up because I have no clue what's going to come back. And the other thing that stressed me out a lot is the fact that I had to constantly deal with people who had no clue about what I was doing. A lot of people that I was working with were like, oh, this is going to be our first online learning foray, right? Or we're looking at revamping everything that we have. And I'm thinking, that's great, but you don't know anything about learning, like, because obviously you just took PowerPoints and put them up online and you think that's training. So like the next iteration of that, you're sourcing now a consultant. How can, let's do things differently now. And how can I influence them to do this? And it was a combination of me becoming way more confident in the solutions that I was proposing. And that confidence doesn't just come from you being like some sort of a one day deciding you're going to be confident. That confidence comes from looking back at your processes and your systems, which a lot of us don't have. We just kind of start from a blank page, or we have this repository of stuff and we're like, we're going to build you anything you want. Here it is. Here's the stuff we've built before. Choose the one that feels good for you. Oh my God. That's the worst. That right now, that just gave me chills. I'm like, that's the worst thing ever. Because if you have, the confidence comes from having a system that works and that you can be creative within that system. And so one of the things that happened to me over time, I gained that confidence because I actually went back and said, what the heck is it that I'm doing that actually makes me feel great, that I know I'm contributing at the right level, and I'm not trying to meet everybody's needs. I'm trying to meet a certain business objective and it's actually being met. And I have to say no to some people, but the end product is phenomenal and I know it solves that specific problem. Can I do that? Where have I been able to do that? So I had to go back through my projects. I had to throw away a bunch of stuff. And then when I thought about, oh my God, this has been staring me in the face this whole time, that was hard because I felt like I really wasted a lot of time, to be honest with you, and a lot of years of my life working on projects that were so bad. And I'm not saying that the outcome wasn't good for those projects, but they drained me so much. And I thought, why? And not just me, like everybody on the team was like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, why is this so hard? Why is the outcome, which was still fabulous, why did it take so much toil? Why was it so bad, right? So I was like, how can we make this fun? How can we make this so that I'm enjoying this and I look forward to these projects instead of dreading them? And that's when the confidence came through, because when you have a system and a framework that you're using that works, then you can start being creative within it. So the creativity part still stays because I love that and I want to get better at it. But also then what happens is if somebody comes to you with some idea that's BS, you know what works. You've done it. You have a system, and you can say, no, that's not going to work. I'm sorry. This is what we're going to do. So you can add your creativity. You can actually, instead of seeking people to tell you what you're going to design, what you're actually doing is you're actually giving very clear constraints to your stakeholders around where they can contribute. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've had, is that I've had inception meetings for projects where everybody is around the room, sitting around that table, right? And from a project manager to like the LMS person to like the expert, right? Everybody gets together. We basically blow 10K in 30 minutes because everybody's getting, and the consultants, if they're there, like we're blowing major money for everybody to sit around a table. Well, what I realized later is that when you have all these people sitting around the table and they're deciding on your learning solution, everybody feels they have to add their 2 cents. And it's not that they don't feel like that they have to act, like that they have to criticize. Thank you. That they have to criticize. Thank you, Peter. They have to criticize or add some sort of new twist. But what happens is they want to contribute, and because they're in that meeting, they have to justify their presence, right? So the problem with that is you're having a bunch of people who have no idea potentially about what you do as far as a learning experience designer. They have no idea what an interactive episode is, what is a scenario. They have a vague perception. And then where I messed up is I would weigh everybody's insight in this with the same kind of basically gravity, if I could say that, as people who were designers. So, the project manager might say something, some kind of an idea, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm sorry, but you have to actually now step back, and I had to do that. And it's not, you can't do that in that meeting. By the time that meeting's done, it's too late. So one of the things you have to do is very, very, in the very beginning up front, decide that what kind of feedback you're going to get, the framework you're going to use. You're coming in with that gives you the confidence to then seek the information that you need in a very structured way, and in a way that takes the pressure off of those people to come up with ideas about things that they really don't know much about. And that's the truth. And when you come in as your expert, and I want you to think about that, because I talk to people every day who are like, oh, I'm not, I don't have the confidence to, who am I? And I've been there, like saying, I'm walked into a room of just professionals, and it's intimidating. And you're trying to create and lead a project that's very, that's going to have a lot of impact. And so everybody wants to do the best job ever, but you really have to be confident in the fact that you have a framework and a system and a learning background, so you can basically funnel that into the right outcome, and then draw on those people's individual strengths to pull into that project. But they're not helping you come up with everything from scratch, because let me tell you, I've been on the projects where it's designed by committee, and they are frustrating for everyone because nobody knows where they're going and everything is up in the air. And that's not how learning works. We know what works in learning. We know what helps people remember. We know what helps people practice. We know what helps people make great decisions. Those are we know what great context is like. And inherently we all do. We know what a great story is like. So once those things, you coming in with that established, all you have to do is be very clear about who is going to provide you with the information that you need to make that experience the best. And coming in with that confidence, that's what people are looking for. They're looking for you to guide that process, because that's not their world. Project manager that's his world. You're not going to tell him how to run the project, right? How to do his tracking, how to do his reporting. That's his baby. So own that learning piece. And it takes, it took me a while. And I said, when I first had those lessons, the first lessons were presented to me, and I didn't even see them. I think one of the things I had to do is go through some really painful experiences, and really, what is it? Like, just, you go back to the project and you're like, wow, that could have gone so much better, but you have no clue what it was that you messed up on. So I had to go back and just deconstruct. And that's when I found my framework and system that really helped me just laser in on what that action is and come in owning that process. Because that's one of the things, when people feel your confidence, they are drawn to it and they listen. If they see you're waffling, they're like, okay, so something's not going right here. You're not sure. Okay, well, let's fill some gaps because this person's not sure. People are naturally looking for that leader. And you have to be on the learning side. You have to be that leader. Otherwise, you end up just being bowled over by people's ideas that are not valid for learning. It's just because they don't live in our world. So if this is something you want help with, you want to skip the 10 years of me banging my head against the wall, I'd love to be able to help you. So I'll put a link underneath the video, which is basically, it's a link to my calendar, so you can book a strategy session with me. And the strategy session is, it's free. By the way, I have people are like, is this free, Anna? I don't, it's free. But the session is about figuring out what your goals are and where you want to add meaning. Because like I said at the very beginning, we are all, a lot of us actually, pushing pixels, right? So you have no idea. You're not creating something and say, look, I made this, and you can display it in some art gallery, or you can see somebody using it. A lot of the things that we create are intangible and they go away. And then you're like, I hope they liked it. I hope that was impactful. I hope they had the aha moments that I wanted them to have. All those things. And that's hard, That's something that I mean, on a daily, I got to remind myself, I'm like, this is something that's helping. And one of the ways you can actually do that is to make sure that you have almost a checklist of things that are essential for a learning experience that will stack the odds in your favor, that it will be a good one, that it'll be relevant, that it'll add, it'll give somebody one of those like shifts in perspective. That's what you're looking for. A lot of times we're not trying to teach somebody something in our little, episodes. Our learning episodes are meant to, because all the content's already out there, right? Everything is available. Everything is absolutely available to everybody. Hi, Gina. Hi, Pina. I hope I said that right. So one of the things we're trying to do is not reinvent the wheel when it comes to content. And I've done that. One of the things we're trying to really do is to engage people to perceive that something is actually missing in their lives, make them feel that the growth, experience the growth, that what is that feeling of achievement look like for them? How could life be different if they took on your journey? And then once you've got that kind of, once you get them there and you show them the magical new world that they can be in, then all you need to do is just provide the curated resources that you have. Done. Because that's what most people need. They don't need more info. They need a reason to access it. And once you have a reason, baby, you will go out of your way to find what you need, right? So that's what we're working towards. So if that resonates with you and you want more help with that, I'll put the link underneath the video. Get in touch and let's just find out where you're at and if I can help you. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of the Wednesday. I already forgot if it was Wednesday or Tuesday, but I hope you have a wonderful rest of the hump day, and I will be seeing you here very, very soon. Otherwise, have a great and productive and full of learning rest of your day. Take care. Bye.